Hi St. John's, it's Councillor Dave Lane, and I'm here to give you a recap of the City of St. John's Budget 2017. The big story coming out is that we made budget cuts, and that means that we can pass those savings back to the taxpayer, and that means you. But I'd like to start by saying that last year it was a pretty tough budget. I think we all remember that, and I voted against it because I felt that it just wasn't reflecting what we were hearing from the people. And a lot of people were pleased that I voted against it, but then were not so pleased when I didn't call out and say repeal, repeal, and just kind of turn back. But the reason I did it, or didn't call for that, is because to simply just reverse something we had done would have been irresponsible and potentially dangerous. But what I did call for was a full, in-depth review of what got us in this mess. I'll call it a mess, but we did that. We did a full program review. It started in January and it went right up until the budget. And what a program review is, or at least what it was this year, was a line-by-line review of the budget. But not only that, we looked at department to department and we said, how are you doing the work that you do? Do you have to do it that way? There's some things that you're doing you don't have to, or there are things we're spending money on that simply don't need that amount of money spent on them. So after very many hours spent reviewing this, a lot of effort put in by staff, a lot of discussions at the council level, we came up with about $16 million in savings. Now, $13 million is the number you're hearing in the news, but there was actually other savings, for example, in the way we do regional services. And in fact, just before the year started, we found about $10 million in public works. So significant savings. And these aren't just cuts for the sake of cutting. These are actually very responsible changes to our spending. We found impressive ways, in my opinion, to save money. So that's the big thing. So what does that mean? Well, basically, we went from a $302 million budget to $294 million, and we took those savings and passed them back to the taxpayer. You might hear that we don't have as much revenue, but it's okay because we don't have as much expenses either. No, the story is that when we cut expenses, we have to match that on the revenue side, so we don't have to take in as much taxpayer dollars. And another thing I'll say is that we changed a lot of our fees. You might have heard some in the news about that as well. What we did is we did a full review of the fees per service. So those are things that you pay specifically for, not in your taxes, but if you need a permit or if you take a course or something like that that the city provides, you pay for that directly. And we found better ways to reflect how much it actually costs to provide that, so the fees reflected that, as well as we looked to other jurisdictions, particularly with parking, and we said, well, what are other people paying in order to keep traffic flowing in that way, and that is the prices we came up with. So these revenues offset how much we have to take from taxpayers. So that's just a kind of an overview of how we found a better budget. So what does that really mean? Well, it means a 0.5 mil reduction. The mill rate is what we multiply by the value of the home or the property to get the tax bill at the end of the day. So it's 0.5 reduction for residents, and it's also 0.5 reduction for commercial property. This is where all your businesses and factories are. As well, we looked at water. So we did a major review of our regional services, and St. John's administers all the regional services. This is like water, sewer, fire services, and the like, things that are shared among municipalities. And with water in particular, we managed to really find major efficiencies in the way we do things, so we can reduce everyone's water tax, which was $630 last year, down to $580. That's $50 per household. And if you're a commercial user of water, we've reduced that rate, which is, we have water meters for commercial properties. We reduced that by 7.9%. So this is all through not just arbitrary cuts. This is actually through finding ways to reduce the cost of providing those services and passing the savings back to the taxpayer. As well, so this is aside from, I guess, the spending that we do. But we are starting to see a reduction in the amount of development permits, so people wanting to build new things, which is a reflection of the economy. And housing starts are going down, and when a house is built, that's a major positive jolt for our economy, because there are so many things that come with the house. People buy new furniture, all the construction workers that go those jobs. It's just a whole bunch of benefits. So what we've done is we said, well, we see a decreasing economy there, and we've reduced our development fees by 20% to show, first of all, that we recognize this is happening, but also to try and spur more development to offset some of the hardships that might be felt over the coming couple of years. Another point I'd like to make is that we have sustained our arts grants funding. That was a major issue last year. One was really disappointed when we made this arbitrary $100,000 cut in a $203,000 budget for arts grants. And the way these work is that it's small grants for many artists and craftspeople and organizations, and to just cut that in half is a big mistake, because those small grants can actually not only sustain someone in a job, because they can leverage that $500, which has been vetted by the city, so other organizations say, oh, okay, if the City of St. John's thinks they're good, well, then I'm willing to spend money on them as well. It makes sure that these people sustain their craft. They stay in St. John's to do what they love. It keeps the community vibrant. So just to sustain that, it's great that we sustained it, but I think it's a start. And I think we need to really recognize that economic development should be our focus now. We've got our house in order. We've set up continuous improvement that I'll talk about in a second. But we need to really focus on how are we supporting the people and businesses in our community so that we have a thriving economy. Because, regardless of what the tax rate is, even if we raise taxes but we're providing amazing services, it doesn't matter if no one can afford it. And if you have a weak economy, it makes it very hard for people to afford it. So the arts is just one component. I think development fees is another one. And we've also strengthened our relationship with the business community. Let me take that for a second. We've actually had, over the past couple of years, a complete turnover in our senior executive staff. So this is the city manager and the deputy city managers, a manager for each of our 5 departments. And I think this is a big deal. We had a lot of folks who were near the end of their careers and had been working with the city for so long in a certain role, but the city has changed so much and the way we do business has changed. It's so great to have fresh blood. These are people who have been working for the city for some time but have a new approach, and to see on the inside how they work together. They are very open-minded. They are very keen to solve problems by getting input, not just from their colleagues but from the people in the community. I really believe you're going to see a sea change. I've already seen it happen at City Hall in the way we do things. I can't stress that enough. We have a new way of doing things. You might hear things in the news. Some people trying to generate confusion or get votes by saying that there's some sort of corruption. Nothing could be further from the truth. And I think that this budget is really one of the biggest signals to that we take our role very, very seriously, not just on council, but more importantly at the staff level. So I'm really excited, to be honest with you. I think that this is a major beginning in a much better run city that reflects the environment we're in today and the things that we want to see. So that's a big message I'd like to share with you. Another announcement that was made yesterday was that we are going to be proceeding with automated garbage. We've been hearing this from everyone. We did a lot of public engagement, as you know, and every time we had a public meeting, every time we had an information session, this message just kept reoccurring: get automated garbage. And what that is garbage machines that go by and they'll lift a bin with a robotic arm into the bin and take it to the dump. Now, people are still driving them, but it's a lot safer because they're not lifting different weights. They don't know what's in the bags. So it's safe in that regard. It's more reliable because they're not breaking down as much because you're jumping back and forth. But also, because we're all going to be getting bins, we're going to have less litter in the city of St. John's, and that's been a major problem we've also heard from everybody. So that's a big step forward. We're going to be buying the new trucks in 2017, and what's great about this is that we already had to replace a number of vehicles in our fleet. They're at the end of their lifespan. They're costing more to maintain than they are saving us money by running around picking up garbage. So by making this decision now, we say, well, we're going to replace these vehicles anyway. Let's replace them with vehicles that can do automated garbage. So we're spending 2017 buying those vehicles and planning how we're going to roll out the program, because that involves scheduling. It involves making sure we know how everyone gets a bin. And the plan there, by the way, is that we're going to be the bins cost per person. I'm not sure the cost yet. I think it's like $100 or so, but it won't be an upfront cost. We're going to phase that in over 4 years, for example, so maybe $20, $25 a year. But this all has to be planned over the course of a year. We have to inform people, and then in 2018, we're going to do it. So these are some of the big announcements that happened last night. So I guess the big one is that we've almost got our tax rate back to where it was in 2015. But it wasn't just by repealing what we did, it was by changing the way we do things and finding meaningful, lasting savings. It's a big deal in my opinion. I'll leave it at that. It's a bit long. I have a shorter video that maybe you watched already. But you can learn a lot more on the city's website. I'll provide a link, and of course I'm always interested in sharing more information or answering questions or responding to concerns that you have in the comments and discussion. So please share this with anyone who might want a long video about the budget, but certainly please keep watching and keep commenting. Thanks so much.